Hey there, welcome back to some Remnant. We are using the exhaust valve today. I've been messing around with it quite a bit over the past few days because I really like it. It's very niche, and I don't necessarily think it's like maybe like kind of top tier-ish type of amulet or anything like that. Mostly because it is so niche. It only works with a couple guns. Like you can't just say, oh, I'm using the Black Maw. You know what might work well with it? The exhaust valve. Like, no, it specifically works with only a few things. So because of that, it kind of limits how much you can use it. But it is kind of good with those things. Like, it's interesting. I really find it enjoyable because it allows me to do things like this. That's my favorite thing about it, is the ability to fire all 150 rounds of the bone saw, because the amulet prevents your guns from overheating. It is going to reduce their fire rate by 20%, but that's okay. I don't really care about it because I'm going to be able to keep shooting, and I've built my whole setup here around just having a lot of fire rate to mitigate that like loss, and it's really fun. It's just very satisfying to me. The cube guns is honestly probably like where it's like the best, because the cube guns have infinite ammo and they generally overheat fairly quickly, so you can't really sit there and just deal a lot of damage with them. So I did the wrong button. So it's going to allow you to like pull out the old cube gun, and then you can just sit there and go to town. And you can see there is a fairly noticeable decrease in our speed, but I mean, it's still, we just don't stop shooting. We do not stop shooting. And I have a lot of fun with it too, because I've been using the superheated mutator. It's a new one, so that while our gun is above 25% heat, we release a pulse of explosive damage. And then because we can just sit at maximum heat, that means it's going to be a bigger pulse that deals more damage and catches everything on fire. So it's really fun. I mean, the superheated one is not like, I don't think super optimal, because the damage seems kind of mid at times and the range is funky, but it is very fun because it kind of hits a lot of chaff guys around me. And sometimes like I've been grabbed by enemies and then I suddenly release a pulse of damage which knocks them off of me, and it has helped me out a couple times. So that is really fun. And I mean, just having it too on like this one as well, like this cube, the Corruptor cube gun, does some pretty good damage and it pierces through enemies. So like you can end up doing a lot of damage down like a hallway. And I'm using the dog because in my head, right, I want to be able to sit here and just shoot the entire magazine of the bone saw. And that's kind of hard to do when enemies are on top of me. So I'm using the dog, and ideally, in like perfect world, the dog goes in, takes all the aggro, and I just sit there and I unload the entire magazine onto the guys without ever having to stop, right? Very fun. I enjoyed it quite a bit. Now, the thing about the amulet though, like because it technically doesn't increase your damage, right? It's just heat decay rate. Guns can't overheat, which I have some gripes about that, but I'm not gonna get into that rambly rant right now. But it doesn't directly increase your damage. Instead, it increases your damage or your overall DPS and damage by giving you the opportunity to keep shooting. Because normally when you're using these guns, you have to stop shooting. You're either gonna have to give it a second to cool off, or accidentally overheat and then wait a couple seconds for it to cool off completely, right? And anytime that happens, that's you not shooting, which means you're not doing damage, so you're losing DPS, you're losing damage. So even if you have an amulet that's giving you like 25% more damage, if you have to stop shooting every 5 to 10 seconds, you know, you're not doing anything. So this basically lets you keep shooting, but you're really only going to see it over a long engagement. So anytime you're stuck in like a short burst of fire, kind of like just a quick like little burst like that, it's not really doing anything for you. Like at that point, yeah, you might as well use an amulet that's giving you raw damage. But with like your setups and stuff too, it actually still like kind of evens out. Particularly because I'm using the constant variable ring. So like as my gun like shoots and it overheats, I start getting 20% more damage. And so that 20% kind of matches up with like an amulet. But then at the same time, you could easily make the argument like, well, if I use an amulet that does 15 to 20% more damage and a ring that's also doing damage, then you're totally going to beat it out. So it's, you know, it's all kind of different. It's all just kind of different. Sort of the same, but sort of different. So I think it's okay. I do wish that it didn't have the heat decay rate part, because if the gun doesn't overheat at all, I don't care that it cools down faster, because what's the point? If it doesn't overheat, just let it overheat. That's my opinion anyways. And so I think it should do something else instead of that first part, like maybe take a page out of Deep Rock Galactic's book with the minigun. The minigun has an upgrade where as it overheats, it actually starts doing fire damage and catches enemies on fire. That would be a really cool effect. I don't know if they could pull that off with the effects in there. Or maybe you just kind of mix in the constant variable ring effects into it so that, like, yes, like as a gun heats up, it's shooting slower because it's getting hot. But the reason it doesn't overheat is because that heat is transferring to the bullets. And that becomes, you know, that takes the form of either being more damage or fire damage or something like that, right? In my head, that just kind of makes like a sense, and I think it would be like really fun. But here's the overall setup. We're focused around fire rate. So Gunslinger, of course, range damage, extra fire rate. Bullet Storm, fire rate, reload speed, auto reloads, very nice. Handler, because like I said, I want the dog to kind of take some aggro. I currently have the support dog on, but when I'm really trying to get my dog to do aggro, of course, I'll do the guard dog so he can maybe pull it off a little bit more. I just kind of have the void armor on. I just sort of felt like using it. Use whatever armor you want to use. Like I said, exhaust valve. We've got the constant variable ring. Because I'm using the bone saw, I'm using the point focus ring to reduce that spread and recoil. It makes it a lot more manageable, even though those were 5 shots. The ring of infinite damage is going to increase our fire rate by 8%. So we go from well, it says 39 right now. I'm not sure where I'm getting that extra 1%. Maybe I got some upgrade on my fragment. But, you know, we should be at 31%. It's up at 39%. So it's nice there. It's just a little bit of extra. I don't mind it. And then the Bloodless King's Vow, because part of like what we're trying to do is to keep shooting our gun. If we have to dodge, if we have to stop and heal, things like that, that means we're not shooting, which means we're not taking advantage of the amulet's effect. We're losing damage, etc., etc. So because we're shooting so many bullets, lifesteal becomes incredibly efficient. So having extra base range damage dealt as lifesteal is very nice. Now for the guns, like I said, bone saw. I think the bone saw is better for this than the plasma cutter because of like how the ratio timing between magazine emptying and the overheating happens. Like I think bone saw is better. But I did choose overflow. Really, I found that any of the like general enhancement mods are pretty solid. So, you know, hot shot, the corrosive rounds, those are fine. The defrag's kind of fun at times, depending on the situation. I run energy wall because if I can put down an energy wall, that means I can not move and block projectiles and just keep shooting down range. So in general, energy wall can be the MVP depending on the boss fight and the situation that you're in. My mutator is bottom heavy. Bottom heavy just gives us a flat increase to our fire rate, and then as a magazine empties, it's going to gain increasing fire rate, and then at level 10 we get a faster reload speed. So this works out perfectly because by the time like we hit that overheat threshold, we are going to have spent at least 50 bullets, right? So we've spent a third of our magazine when we start overheating, which means we have built up an increased fire rate. So even though our gun is, yes, slowing down because we're overheating, we've already ramped up the fire rate, so it immediately kind of like cancels each other out. It's a really fun combo. I really like it. But you could go with like, you know, Bandit. Bandit will just keep putting bullets back into the magazine to keep you shooting and make you shoot faster, so those bullets keep going back out. So that one's a lot of fun too. And of course, handguns, like I said, the cube guns, I've been using superheated. I also find that the insulator is perfect too because it doesn't work on this one, right? Insulator doesn't work on this cube gun because the magazine is actually infinite. But if you use the regular cube gun and you put the insulator one in, this gives you a shield for spending at least 10% of your magazine. Because every shot is 20% of your magazine, we're shooting quickly and infinitely, we're constantly at max shield, so it really fits very nicely with the whole setup. But you could kind of mess around with some of the mutators in there. Just know that some of them are weird because the cube guns, you know, they don't have regular ammo thing. So like the extender has nothing to do with this. It increases the reload speed, but like we're not like actually reloading. So a number of them are pretty weird. You could go charge wound for that faster fire rate based on who's overloaded, right? And that can kind of help you a little bit there. You know, you get it. Melee weapon, I don't even know what I have in there. Blade of Gold was Edgelord. Cool. Don't care. I'm not using it. At any rate, traits and stuff. Main things. I'm playing on Apocalypse. I've got survivable stuff on there. You know, maxed out Fortify, maxed out Vigor. Now, like I said, Lifesteal is pretty nice. So maxed out Siphoner. A few points into Leech as well. Just kind of enhance those effects going on there, right? I find that you know, with the dog, I put points on Rugged, but I find anytime I'm really focusing in on like constantly shooting, like with the Plasma Cutter, using things with like footwork to make sure I can move faster while aiming down sights is very clutch. That can be super helpful, so I don't actually have to dodge. And the dog is automatically, and like the handler in general, is just giving us faster movement speed, so I didn't feel the need to put points into swiftness. If you don't have the dog, you might want to put some points into that trait so that you have a faster movement speed while you're aiming down sights. You know, it all kind of feeds into itself and it works out nice. Oh, also handling. Again, because I'm using the bone saw. If I wasn't using the bone saw, I wouldn't care about handling. If I was using the plasma cutter, I wouldn't care. At that point, I don't care about weapon spread. It's a laser. I don't really care about recoil. It's not like unmanageable, which means I would switch out the point focus ring. I am going Tranquil Heart. I like the extra little passive here. I've got a lot of lifesteal just from my traits and this ring. I don't really need the extra lifesteal of something like the Profane Heart. So I kind of went with some passive regen because I didn't put points into regrowth. So using the passive regen from this and the support dog makes it so that I can just like really regenerate in between fights. However, if I really feel like I need like in fight, like active healing from a relic, I'll choose a different relic that's going to actively heal me. And then the fragments, you know, of course, we got a health bonus. I've got a fire rate increase. I got a range damage increase. And then I've got my general ranged prism thing, which has, you know, spread, range damage, fire rate, yada, yada, yada. So work with what you got. That's it. Let's go fight Miniface. How long has it been? 12 minutes is what my recording says. I don't know if I started talking right away or not, because I'm not keeping track of anything right now. Now, this fight has some good potential for us to do a lot of damage. It also has some good potential for us to just get you know, dogs are barking. It also has a good potential for us to just get royally messed up, because the prime DPS phase for us, where we can just really sit there and unload into the Corruptor, is going to also have a lot of those flyers. I'm going to die because I always mess up that roll. The prime DPS phase against the Corruptor means there's a lot of those stupid birds flying at us, and they deal so much damage on Apocalypse. It's really annoying. It is the one thing that keeps me from really enjoying this fight. If those stupid bird things did not swoop you while you could just actively do the DPS, I would love this fight so much more. But no, it makes sense why they're doing it, but I hate it. Alright, try it again. Let's do better. Come get some. We're going to start just by spending some of our bullets, and then once he starts doing things, then I will pull out the Bullet Storm, because it'll auto-reload and pull from an infinite ammo resource, which is why I wanted to have the Gunslinger as my primary. Now, you may have noticed I used my overloaded rounds a little... How did I get one shot? I'm not that squishy. Like, I understand I'm not, like, built to be super durable, but, like, I'm not particularly less durable than I normally am. Maybe I'll drink a health concoction. Maybe that'll make a bigger difference. But what you do is, you shoot at first, spend some of your magazine, activate Bullet Storm to auto-reload so you don't have to spend time reloading, and then after a couple seconds before your infinite reserves go away, you then activate your mod to auto-reload your gun and pull from your infinite reserves. That way you're getting as much bang out of, you know, bang for your buck for like ammo and stuff. Like now, and now we keep unloading. Burn down this one. I love using the extra fire rate. We can get them pretty good weak points right here. Now it's like, oh, come on. That hit me again. Look how quickly our health can come back. The faster reload speed is nice. Now is prime opportunity for us to just completely unload on this guy. Look at that, as we just completely empty the entire bone saw's magazine into this dude's head, which brings him down. Beautiful. That's exactly what we want. Now we gotta watch out for stupid flying birds. Once it's reloaded, we just start sending shots downrange, burning this dude down, watching out for stupid bird things. We're actually gonna switch to the cube gun, and what I'm hoping for is that the pulses of damage will keep some of those stupid flyers off of us. Did it work? Don't think so entirely. We'll see. Infinite ammo, infinite ammo. Here in a moment, we watch for that big slammy slam. Whoop. Switch it back over. Get ready to run. Yep, there we go. Pull from infinite ammo. Get ready for our overclock. The good thing is, too, I feel like because we shoot so many bullets, our gun ends up charging up very quickly with its mod. Now, you may notice I'm waiting to really do any damage to his hands because I want him to like recuperate his arms over here, which he promptly chose not to do. So we can still unload from this direction. Good deal. All right. Now we got to pay attention though, because he's going to jump, right? Everything gets reloaded. Pick up some ammo. We might be able to drop him before the thing shoots at us. No, maybe not. Bring him down. There we go. Switch back to this. We're actually going to use our relic. That's going to give us more range damage, auto reload our gun, get our dog being even stronger, all those things. Bullet storm. Get ready to pull out the lightning cube as well, or lightning bullets. All right, let's see how we're doing on damage. Not bad, honestly. I mean, he's also draining health at the same time, so sometimes it's kind of hard to tell. But like, I think it was pretty decent there. We do need to run away though. So at this point, we could probably just unload onto the Corruptor. We need to dodge him when he lands. Paying attention here, focusing. Oh, switch it. Oh, that hit me. Get up. Get a bunch of health back and win. Really, outside of me messing up the stupid dodges. Pretty decent fight, I feel like. You know, I did change up my armor because I felt kind of mad. So I was like, you know what? Let's eke a couple percentage extra damage reduction. Did that make the difference? Not sure, but that's when I won. But like, the build is obviously not some super crazy meta type thing, right? But it does scratch that big itch. If you are looking to do like super, I'm just shooting a lot of bullets, this will do it. Because it lets you do that fantasy with a bone saw. It lets you just completely unload the magazine. That's like what really drew me. But it also lets you shoot like crazy things with the cube guns. Like, I can't tell you how many times I've been able to just like in Naruto in some hallway in the dungeon, just completely lay out an entire hallway with a corrupted cube gun while my dog is just sitting there holding a choke point. It's so satisfying. And I mean, like, you could do it with teammates too. Like, we've got, you know, maxed out kinship. We could just be laying it down there and be perfectly okay. Like, I really like it. I think it's a lot of fun. You know, the exhaust valve at any rate, and messing around with the idea of it. I just kind of wish that the heat decay rate, like, again, I don't really care about that because the gun doesn't overheat. So what's the point, you know? And the fact that like I could replicate that effect with a ring, you know, specifically the micro compressor, because the micro compressor is gonna do the heat decay rate and, you know, reduce how much heat my bullets are generating per shot right away. So if I'm actually concerned about that, then I'll just use a micro compressor or Ingenuity as far as the mutator goes, because that does the same thing. So I think it'd be cool if they change that. Will they? Probably not, because at the end of the day, it's whatever, you know, the developers want it to be, right? Whatever their image is and their idea, like, this is what we want it to do, and if that's what they want it to do, it is what it is. Obviously, other things would be cooler, but I'm happy. I have fun with it. I do want to point out this quick thing real quick. So if I take off, let's take out some of this extra things, right? I just want to show, like, in my head, right, comparing, like, I guess I could have left the point focus ring on, but I wanted to compare and just kind of show you, like, how it technically does, like, kind of even out as far as, like, DPS and damage-wise compared to, like, a sort of equivalent setup, right? Because anytime I normally use bone saw, I'm going to use a micro compressor ring because I don't want it to overheat very quickly and I want it to cool down fast. So, like, with our current setup, with, you know, without you know, analyzing anything super crazy. We've got exhaust valve and the constant variable ring. This is going to give us our damage. This allows us to keep shooting. So if I go and we'll actually use the plasma cutter because it has a smaller magazine, it's easier to kind of keep track of, right? But if we use like the plasma cutter here, right? We start shooting, unload the entire magazine, you know. We're doing a little bit about like, you know, close to 1100 DPS at the end there, and we did 7900 damage. Now if we then kind of swap it to a, again, comparable setup, and we use the micro compressor instead of constant variable ring, and then we put on a different amulet because now we're set for overheating. Like, we're good. Micro compressor is going to cover that for us. So now we switch out the amulet for like an actual, like a damaging amulet. Like, you know, Zero Divide is the one my brain always just kind of goes to because I love the Zero Divide. I like the flat damage. I like it having infinite ammo reserves wherever, you know, it's up at the top. You know, that idea. So if we do that, you know, we can see we're cranking up over 1,000, looking at 1,100 towards the end, you know. Oh, we're getting close to 1,200. You can see, like, our DPS was maybe technically higher, but the damage was actually lower. And the reason for that is, and it makes sense, because this is only a 15% damage increase, where that constant variable ring is a 20%. So that 5% is kind of the difference here. But, you know, kind of ignoring that, because we could easily swap this for a 20 to 25% damage increase amulet. They're comparable, right? Like, you know, they are actually very similar. I think the biggest issue you're going to run into is if you, like, are sitting, if you're in, like, a true fight with, like, a boss and you're having to dodge all the time. For a lot of those, like, small moments where you're only shooting, like, 20 rounds, you know, you've got like a couple hundred DPS and you've only done like 1,000 damage. You swap it out, how much are you going to end up with, right? Is it going to be the same? You know, maybe not. I don't know. That one actually did more. Maybe the constant variable ring is heating up and doing more damage faster than I'm giving it credit for. I never actually checked to see where that like 20% damage value ramps up to, because it's not going to be at maximum heat, because you would never reach 20% then. So is it actually like a smaller value? Is it up to like 20% heat? But you know, you see what I mean though. Like it deceptively, with the right kind of things, it kind of evens out. But again, I'm not super optimizing. I'm doing casual stuff, you know what I mean? But it does. Give it a go. Let me know what you think. Cube gun stuff too is super fun with it. Very, very fun. That's it though. That's the build. Thanks for checking it out. And yeah, like always, take care.